Hey everyone, this is Abstract Apes from a brand new environment. I'm in a new house and Danny's back in Bulgaria. Today we're going to be talking about Jordan Peterson's personality test and in general about Jordan Peterson. So Danny, what's up with you, bro?
We had our summer break. I think that's a good way to start the episode as well. We've been away for a while and we have lots of ideas for new episodes to come out. This is one that we've been dragging for quite some time now, I think for maybe a month and a half. But that's because...
Little break. We got a little break.
That's just because we decided to take the foot off the pedal and take it a bit more slowly. And really excited for this episode to see where we go from here. Do you want to start with... you said you wanted to have a bit of a discussion about Jordan Peterson's work. Or Jordan Peterson himself.
Yeah, Jordan Peterson himself, yeah. So I think everyone that's watching this knows who Jordan Peterson is. There's very little people that are not in the loop of who he is. And in no way do I want to attack Jordan Peterson, but I have a couple of critiques about him. So he's a very smart and competent dude. But I really don't like that he kind of has like this monopoly over... social media about his niche. So like his niche is like this psychology/philosophy that like appeals to younger audiences. Well, not younger, but like in the span of 18 to 30, let's say. And he says it's predominantly males, but I've seen a lot of girls that have also seen him and that also like watch exclusively him about stuff like this. And what I don't like is that people don't get like a second viewpoint on stuff that he says. So if he has some critique on some idea or some philosophy, most of the time they take what he says as granted instead of like thinking about it from a different point of view. Let's say, I'm not really sure I can give a very accurate example, but do you know what I'm speaking of?
So I think what you're talking about is the fact that you shouldn't base all your life around a single person. You should always take a diverse perspective. The reason why I think both of us resonate with him is because his ideas are applicable to us. And as you said, he is competent, he is highly intelligent. So it's good to keep an open mind and be able to criticize him because he's not a god. He is human like the rest of us. But the reason why we're doing this episode, I think, is because there is something to be learned from him and his work.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Like there is a lot to learn from him, but like there's also a lot of things that I disagree on with him. Like the whole thing about Christianity. Like I'm not really that adamant on stuff like fitting that much into the Christianity moral standards and like moral codex and stuff like that. And I think a lot of things that he kind of links up with Christianity are just like synchronicity. So like just coincidences, just very, very meaningful coincidences. Or let's say correlation is not causation.
I think
some logical fallacies that I've observed.
A good guide to that is just take what you consider useful, practical, and good for you, and then leave out the rest where the area is unclear.
But if you have only one viewpoint, though, it's really hard to like know which to like put back and which to grab.
Yeah, I agree. So that's why you should always keep on reading, read other philosophers, other scientists. Listen to interviews of them, expand your perspective, and just grow from there.
Yeah. I think I have a problem not with his ideas and like what he says. I have a problem with his very aggressive marketing because I haven't seen ads from anyone else like on his niche except him. Like I've seen ads of Jordan Peterson on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Instagram. It's like he's all over the place. He's doing very aggressive marketing. I think that's just something that I don't consider right for something like that. He's trying to educate the people, and I'm just like an adamant believer that education should be like free. He shouldn't be selling. He's not selling his stuff, but like he's selling other stuff. I mean, that's the capitalist thinking. I'm all for that capitalist way, so like, all power to him. But it's just something that like I disagree with. That's just my personal
All right, so
opinion.
that's a bit about him as a person and what he's doing.
Yeah.
And let's see what the motto here is. So the title of the episode is personality. So what we're going to be talking about is this personality model that he developed along with a lot of other people, a lot of other scientists. And again, looking at the critique a bit, it is a social science. So nothing's completely concrete. But what this model is based on is these 5 traits. So the first one is agreeableness. You have conscientiousness, extroversion, neuroticism, and the 5th one is openness to experience. And basically, you can categorize different people depending on how they do this personality test. You can put them on a scale from 0 to 100 and see how they do in each of the components. And would you like to go into just a bit of depth on each individual one? What exactly it is?
Yeah. Well, first of all, we're gonna link a video of Jordan Peterson himself explaining the whole model. But it's just like there's 5 primary ones that you just mentioned, and then each one of those primaries get like split up in 2 others, which are like basically the most archetypal of this thing. So like for agreeableness, it's compassion and politeness. For conscientiousness is industriousness and orderliness. For extroversion, it's enthusiasm and assertiveness. And neuroticism, it's withdrawal and volatility. And finally, openness to experience is split up into intellect and openness, which is like openness more to like creative ideas and stuff like that. But we're gonna go more in depth about these things and how they correlate to our personalities a bit later on. Do you want to talk about what your experience was taking the test itself before you got your results?
Yeah, so when I took the test, first of all, I thought it was really short. I thought there's going to be more questions, and I was surprised by the fact that so little questions can just determine you as a person. I thought you need to take a lot more data. I thought we are more complex than that. So I don't know how well that method works, but again, I'm not I'm not a psychologist or a social scientist, so I can't say for sure how effective that is. And after that, speaking about my results, yeah, we can go into that later on to see where the surprises were and what came out, as expected, and what was out of reach for us. How about you?
I have a few things that I'd like to say about the test itself, but I think it's not only about this test specifically. I think it's about all personality tests that I've taken. And one big thing is that you are susceptible to a lot of emotional biases when you're thinking about who you are. So let's say I'd like to answer if I think quickly. Like one of the questions was, it's statements and you rate them from 1 to 5. But the statement was, I think quickly. And who in his right mind would answer, no, I don't think quickly?
I think there are people that they think slowly.
Really, I feel like I feel like emotionally nobody likes to think slowly. Like nobody, even if he does, he wouldn't want to kind of.
So what you're saying is there's a bias in the test that boosts your score in the direction that you want, because you are projecting
exactly
that higher self, that person who you want to be.
Exactly, because the brain doesn't want to be wrong according to its own standards, because everybody thinks that thinking fast is nice, right? It's good to have.
Yeah, but of course you are doing, a thing to keep in mind is you're doing this test for yourself and you've paid for it. So are you doing it in order to feel better about yourself and just put answers to the questions which are untruthful? Or are you trying to objectively, as much as possible, do the test and get a realistic perspective on who you really are as a person.
Right.
I think is the second one.
That's a really good point. However, this is where my critique comes in of this. That's what I thought as well, right? You're trying to be as objective as possible. However, we humans are really bad intuitive statisticians. So like, would you say objectively, but you don't really have a very accurate representation of what thinking fast objectively is. Because am I comparing myself to a stand-up comedian or like one of those human calculator people? If I'm comparing myself to them, well, it's kind of, I think quite slowly. But if I'm comparing myself to somebody who is not that bright, perhaps I think quite fast. So this is where the rating would vary quite a lot.
Yeah, I see. You're saying it depends on your reference group.
Exactly.
And your reference group is quite small. It's not the whole world.
Exactly.
It's just that the people you've interacted with. And if the
Anecdotal experience.
people you interacted with are faster than you, think in a faster way, then you're more likely to think you're the slow one.
Precisely.
You might, yeah. I think overall, though, statistically, it works out throughout the whole population. But there might be a problem there, yeah.
I think there are definitely a lot of problems with that. And another thing that I also observed is like using these adjectives as quickly. Quickly kind of limits you because it's like it narrows your what would you say? It narrows your range of answers. It kind of entraps you in this range. So like if I disagree, I say, well, I don't think quickly. You don't know if I think extremely fast or if I think extremely slow. You just know that I don't think quickly.
I don't get that.
So like, okay, let's put a adverb of frequency, which is going to be a bit easier. So like, let's say the statement is, I often think about fruit. If I completely disagree with this answer, so like, I do not often think about fruit. You only know that it's not at all often that I think about fruit. But the question, if I do it all the time or never, still remains.
That's why there's a scale. So it says to the extreme end here, I think quickly. So there's an extreme here, and then in the other direction, it means I'm the slowest person in the room.
That's what you think it is. However, logically, if the middle one, the neutral one, is neither agree nor disagree, right? So if I think that I think about fruit all the time, like always, that's not often. And it can't be represented with often. So like I would say neither agree nor disagree for often, and then put it in brackets underneath always.
Yeah, I think you should understand, like that's a problem in semantics, but if you do the test in like many people, they wouldn't think that deeply. It's like the first reaction when you say,
it works.
I think quickly is the emotional response that comes out, and then people don't dig into that question like in a philosophy, like philosophers type of way, to just deconstruct the question and absolutely destroy it.
That was like one of my concerns, because like it kind of entraps you. It's a logical fallacy. It's called the.
And a couple of questions later, you're pondering the meaning of life, and you're reading like Camus and Sartre, and you're like,
Well, no, it's just like I think it's called the complex question fallacy. But anyway, moving on. That doesn't really matter. It's just my pet peeves.
Moving on, yeah. What's really interesting to me is to look at these traits, break them down one by one, and then talk about ourselves and how we did on these traits. So let's start with agreeableness. Agreeableness splits into two components, politeness and compassion. And politeness is more to do with respect for authority, whilst compassion is more to do with empathy, sympathy, feeling what other people feel. And it stems from one fact I remember is that politeness is more common in conservatives because they respect authority, and compassion is more prone to occur in liberals, people with liberal inclinations. Right. So, Penef, how did you do on agreeableness?
Well, if I'm in a room with 100 people, I would be more disagreeable than 99 of them and more agreeable than zero.
So, what do you think that
I'm in
tells you
the
about your
zeroth.
personality?
I'm in the 0th percentile, dude. Like I literally never agree with people. Well, first of all, Peter from Before the Valley, like we talked with him about this, and I do agree that it's very not like highly unlikely that I'm in precisely in the 0th percentile. I might like to think that I'm in such way, but like perhaps in like emotional states or peer pressure, I might be much more agreeable, you know.
Yeah, I think just what you can extrapolate from this, just generally speaking, you can say that in general you are a disagreeable
Yeah.
person. So
Yeah.
don't put a percentile on it. In general, you're
Yeah.
disagreeable.
Yeah.
It turns out that I'm disagreeable too, which
Very expected.
it can't.
Very expected.
No, but initially I thought I was really like a compassionate person and I'm really trying to get other people's perspective. And then when I did this test, I was like, oh damn, is this really how other people perceive me? I'm actually
How much are you? How much are you?
I'm in the 25th percentile for compassion, which gives me hope because there's
Okay.
room to improve there. My politeness is really low. I'm in the 12th percentile.
Politeness 0 and then compassion 2.
Put that two there. It's nice. 2 points for.
I mean, come on, man. Like, I can't control this. It's just the way I am. No, the thing is, though, you try to be compassionate. You try to understand people, but you do it in a very logical way. It's not that emotional. So I think that's what like stops you from going on into after like that 50. Because like girls, like some girls that I know, like I don't want to generalize, but like girls are more compassionate in general. Like the ratio is 61 to 39 girls to men. So like I can probably make that generalization pretty safely. But girls, they're more likely to be emotionally compassionate, while you're very cold. Like you're trying to empathize, you're trying to understand how they feel, rather than really sympathize with them and take on their burden.
This is something that I've been trying to work on, which is to actually relax myself emotionally so that I can communicate my emotions better. I think this is part of compassion. So compassion people in general are more emotional. They're also more likely to share their emotions, and this has also helped me to then like absorb other people's emotions as well and try and really be present when they are talking. And this is something I'm getting from Carl Rogers. I really want to read his book on becoming a person, where he really stresses the importance of empathic listening, to just be with a person and take in whatever they're saying emotionally, and just be there for them. And that's a skill that I would like to develop. That's an area where I like to improve and probably work towards the 50th percentile on compassion rather than the bottom 1/4. But politeness, I don't care that much.
No, I'm the same way about compassion, because like I have felt myself sometimes when people are like sharing their emotional hardships and stuff like that. I can feel myself sometimes being like, no, you should do this rather than this. I'm like,
it's like, why do you feel that way? Just, it's so practical. You should do X and just stop doing Y.
This is like, but this is the disagreeableness thing, right? This is like where you want to be right and the other person not, and like it's a competition. But no, you should like just relax, bro. It doesn't need to be all a competition. But like, obviously, I can't function like that. At least that's what the TED says.
Yeah, so one point I think for improvement for both of us is to become less like robots and more like people.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. A lot more, I don't know, connect with other people.
Connection with other people, yeah. Let's talk about conscientiousness. Next trait, splitting into, you can say, what does it branch out?
Conscientiousness is like industriousness and orderliness. Well, I think people can really like dig into this if they really want to, and we can say like the characteristical traits of these things, how they relate to us, rather than just explain them plainly.
Yeah, yeah. So, what's your industriousness score?
No. Let's first of all start off with you. You're the interesting one here. So like overall conscientiousness, how much are you?
Overall, I'm in the 50th percentile, which I felt at ease at. I'm not very lazy, which I often stress myself about. I'm like, I should be doing more work. I should be doing this, and there's a certain anxious feeling that comes out from that. And my industriousness is actually lower than my orderliness. I'm in the 27th percentile for industriousness and the 71st percentile for orderliness. So I don't know,
Wow.
I'm heading towards OCD there with the orderliness. But yeah, less industrious people who have higher IQ, so people who are more capable intellectually but are lazy, are perceived as underachievers and are usually pressured from their group to always be doing more.
I don't think you're
And this is
that
the
low
thing
in
that-
industriousness, dude.
Well, that's the thing. Am I just more intelligent than hardworking and things just work out for me? A lot
No,
easier
no,
with
that's
that-
the
with less
thing.
work?
You work all the fucking time. Like I don't believe this score is right for you. You work way more than me,
Okay.
and like I got like on industriousness I got 91, and I think that's fucking bullshit. I should get like 60, and you should get like 80.
I think I'm more than 20, yeah, in the 27th percentile,
No.
but still, I wouldn't rate myself as
No,
like
you're
60
super
or
highly
something.
like you're like working all the time. You don't really allow yourself
blushing,
to
bro.
have a lot of what?
I'm blushing.
No, but like for real, like think about this. How many useless things did you do today? Like how much time did you waste? I'll tell you.
Not really.
Not a lot.
I know. 2 minutes because I tried to make a coffee and I couldn't figure out my coffee machine at my own house. So I failed at making a coffee
Nah,
twice.
dude,
And that's 2 minutes.
but that's not like wasting time. You still try
yeah,
to
I'm
be
just,
something.
I'm just joking.
You know. But no, this is what I mean. Because like, I got 91 for industriousness and 90 for orderliness, and both of them are way too high. Like,
I know. I think you are very industrious once you get your head in the game, especially with programming and editing the videos and all that. When it comes to a project that you can do individually by yourself,
yeah.
you can just zone out, absorb yourself, and you are the most hardworking person I know in those types of environments.
Thank you.
You blushing now? Pass the ball to you.
But orderliness, I do have OCD. I must say, like, I have always thought I have some degree of OCD.
Like mild, you know, like
very
borderline.
yeah, very mildly. But
Yeah.
I think just like a high degree of orderliness explains it pretty well. However, 90 is a bit of a stretch. Like my room,
Too extreme.
I can live with my room being a mess, or
Jordan Peterson does not
does not approve. Or like the kitchen being like a bit messy. I can live with that shit. But like, yeah, I mean, it's more about being clean myself. I think like personal hygiene is a big thing for me. I think that's what like.
Yeah, I know people with mild forms of OCD that have to wash their hands like 100 times. That's an exaggeration, but
Yeah,
many
that's why I
times
have
just
like
to-
very dehydrated hands, because like I wash them a lot. But yeah, I mean that's fine. Anyway,
Extroversion.
moving on. Yeah.
How much of an extrovert are you, Pennant?
You wouldn't guess this, actually. You wouldn't guess this. I'm in the 75th percentile.
No.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah,
I'm in the 22nd percentile.
yeah, dude. Exactly.
How are you more extroverted than
I
me?
have no idea. This is what this test says, dude. I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
No, I love hanging
One
out
thing
with people.
though. Oh, I know why. So extroversion splits
Oh, yeah.
into two traits: enthusiasm and assertiveness. Let me guess which one is higher for you.
How much do you guess assertiveness is for me?
I would say 99th.
Nah, I'm 88th.
Ah, all right. Okay, so I would say that assertiveness is also close to disagreeableness.
Yeah.
Because assertive people stay their ground and they, if they, even if they're not competent, or it doesn't matter if they're competent or not, they stand their ground, they argue a lot more and defend their position.
Yeah.
So this is why I think both of us are quite high on assertiveness, because I know that if I've researched something and it's something I feel emotionally strong about, and there is something to be had here,
You ain't budging. You ain't budging.
I would what?
You're not budging. You just.
Oh, I'm not budging. Yeah, so you can't.
Yeah.
I'm rock solid.
Yeah, just rock solid.
Rock
How
solid.
much is your assertiveness and enthusiasm?
Assertiveness 68th percentile, and enthusiasm, which I was surprised about, I'm in the 3rd percentile. I'm one of the least enthusiastic people in the room.
I know a lot of people that
Apparently.
are quite less enthusiastic than you, but I think you're very low in enthusiasm anyway. You're maybe like 30, 40 in like my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's because I like to, or I used to like a lot more to keep my emotions to
I
myself.
think,
So my
yeah.
enthusiasm was low. It's kind of just to withhold that excitement, for example.
It's going to
for something
have
that's about to happen.
a link with neuroticism, I bet.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I think I'm generally a really extroverted person. I like being around people. The problem is I'm high in neuroticism with withdrawal and volatility, and that stops me from being with many people.
Are
and
you?
Just putting myself out there.
Huh.
Yeah, so let's talk about
Wait, hold
first
up,
about your
hold up.
enthusiasm and assertiveness, and then we're gonna move on to neuroticism.
Yeah, no,
that's gonna
this
link up very good.
is absolutely crazy. I didn't know. I would say you're not volatile at all.
Oh, I think I am quite, because of my emotional, like, I guess volatility, you can't really see it because I withhold
Yeah.
those emotions, but in general I feel that whenever I'm happy, I kind of try to suppress it, not to share it as much, and whenever I'm anxious, for sure I go in the tank and I'm like, I'm not letting anyone know about this. You know?
Yeah, no, this is
But what about your enthusiasm and assertiveness score? Let's look at that.
enthusiasm. I'm 47, and assertiveness I'm 88, as I already said.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I got from this whole personality thing is that I would not deal well in low and average hierarchies, like low position in hierarchies. I would not deal well with that because like I'm extremely assertive and disagreeable. I'm not about that shit. And I think that's the thing, right? That's why I'm such a bad part of a team. Because like if I'm in a team and I'm not the leader, oh, I'm not having a good time at all.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's good for you because you're also high in conscientiousness, which means that you are going to work your way up to competence. You're also probably high in intellect. We're going to look at that later. But as soon as you become competent in the subject, then it's a lot easier for you to be assertive because you know your stuff and you are willing to keep your ground and defend the position whenever there's
Yeah, but it's a double-edged
chance to
sword
defend.
because right now I'm not that competent and sometimes I'm not willing to take a second opinion just because I'm that disagreeable. So it's a double-edged sword, really.
For sure, yeah, and this is something I want to mention, that most of these traits, there's not really a distinction between, oh, this trait is amazing, you should have it, and this trait, oh, for sure, stay away from it. Most of them are like a double-edged sword in a sense that if you are really agreeable, you might be really compassionate and outgoing with people, but the problem is...
You're not going to rise
there's-
up that much in hierarchies.
Yeah, and there's also the hidden resentment that you might have for always giving and not
Yeah.
receiving enough. Whilst disagreeable people, they seem like cold and tough, and people are like, oh, I don't want to talk to this dude, I don't like him. But they're more likely to climb up those hierarchies and stay their ground and get what they really want. So it's always a matter of balance. That's the universal
Yeah.
statement, right?
Yeah.
Just balance all the way through.
Balance.
And so balance. nothing's really universal here.
No. People shouldn't think that the one is better than the other just because of some fucking personality. That's bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm gonna talk about the 16 personalities one, like in a little bit after, like at the end, because it's so interesting. I'm like insanely disagreeable, and I'm like a mediator in that one. Anyway, we're gonna talk about it later. Let's get on to neuroticism.
Neuroticism, I'm really high. When I did this test, I think I was higher than right now. Because right now I'm pretty chin. I'm chin. No, I'm pretty chill, and I'm like I'm zened right now. So, but at the time, I scored 78th percentile on neuroticism with very high withdrawal, 93rd percentile in withdrawal.
Damn, 93rd.
Yeah, and 48th percentile in volatility. So yeah, that hit
Wow.
hard.
Okay. I mean,
What about
I'm 44 in neuroticism, and in withdrawal I'm 23rd actually. And volatility.
So you are a stable person.
No,
You don't
volatility I'm
experience that
68.
much.
I get annoyed extremely fast, man. Like
Yeah.
so fast.
So let's explain just for a second. Neuroticism is like a negative emotion.
No, susceptibility to change in emotions, I would say.
Yeah, and it's also linked to experiencing anxiousness,
anxiety,
and shyness,
yeah.
and depression, and all these negative emotions that we associate with neuroticism. Withdrawal is where you take those emotions within you, and you don't share. Volatility is just the change of emotions. So you're not stable. You're always all
Bipolar.
over the place.
I'm bipolar as fuck, man.
And so yeah, this is something that I also didn't know about myself. But now looking back, I do understand how I was quite neurotic in the sense of I do experience a lot of negative emotion, and I've been working through just improving on that, being more stable, being more calm, and reducing that amount of like anxiety that comes up day to day.
No, absurdism, Taoism, and Stoicism. It's the three antidotes to withdrawal.
Buddhism.
Nah, fuck Buddhism. Buddhism is not that great, but like Taoism.
What? No,
Dude,
man.
Buddhism
I'll
is like,
debate with you
oh,
here.
fuck off, dude. it's for another podcast. Anyway, you want to move on, or like, do you have anything else?
Yeah, openness to experience is something that we can scratch our egos with.
Oh,
if you know what I mean.
hell no, dude.
What's your openness to experience score?
High. It's high. What's yours?
It's
What's
high,
yours?
high off the sky. I'm 85th.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
And what about you?
The 8th.
Okay. Big boss.
No, dude, like this.
Here.
I'm telling you, there was so many emotional biases when I was doing this
Do you
test.
feel it's undeserved?
No, not really.
That's what I wanted you to say.
I mean, I don't know
think we're
about
both
90.
really high in-
I don't know about 98, but like above 90,
No,
100%.
bro. Both of us, I feel, are really high in openness to experience, and especially in intellect, because we want to discuss ideas all the time. We want to keep learning about new ideas all the time, just read new material, talk about these things. And that's something that I can't do with many people. I've noticed that. I've tried to do it. I thought that's how everyone else is. You know, people just like to talk about ideas. And I find that more and more that's not the case. And that's why I consider myself higher in intellect and openness to experience, because I'm just willing to, you know, let's discuss this. Let's learn about this. I want to read this book. And this is not a common experience that when I've spoken to people, they agree.
Yeah. I mean, how do you think intellect like carries on in other parts of life except like friendships and shit?
Intellect is the component that's most linked to IQ. It doesn't necessarily correlate 100%, but it's the one that's closest to IQ. And so if you have a higher intellect, you're more likely to have a higher IQ, and from there a lot of other consequences come up, like you are more likely to do a more complex job and therefore be higher paid.
Yeah.
And so if you're talking about your work life, not your relationships with other people, the higher your IQ, the more jobs the more jobs of different complexity.
Have you had like this your tendency to be interested in novel ideas and concepts and stuff like that. Like be very, how do you say it? Like observed in something that you do. Let's say, like an example that I have is I worked a job for the student ambassadors, and it was in the office. And I was basically a human Excel spreadsheet. What I was doing was I take data from one Excel spreadsheet and put it into another. And what I did, like the 7th or 8th time I did that, what I started doing was I started teaching myself Visual Basic so that I can create like an algorithm in Excel that can do it for me. But then I realized the moment I create that algorithm for them, they stop needing me. So they're not going to be paying me anymore. So that's when I stopped. I was like, because like one of the bosses came over and she was like, yo, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, I'm just learning how to create like algorithms in Excel and like macros. So like the whole thing that I do for like 4 hours that you can do with like one click. Nothing too special. And she's like,
I would do it just for myself and then not tell anyone, and I would just do a click.
Yeah,
and
but
that's my work done.
But what do? You just stay and look at a fucking Excel spreadsheet for like 50 hours, and then when you can do it with just one
But
click.
I have a common experience with this. Every time I'm doing a monotonous job, I just think, how can I do this quickly?
How can I
automate
it?
Automate it? How can I find a different way just so that I'm not doing this and I can do whatever I want after?
Yeah, literally. I think.
So I have a similar.
I've always thought
experience.
that it's laziness that's a big motivator for me in that sense. But I think it's just
Not.
I think I don't mind doing the job, but it's just I can have so much more time if I don't do it.
I sympathize with you there.
And I think that's one of the things. I have a big problem with people getting paid hourly, because a job that I can do in 30 minutes at the same quality of something that can be done in 4 hours, my work is more valuable because I can do it in 30 minutes. People like fast workers. People like job fast done, right? So
one thing that this reminded me of is, if you are, here's a really bad combination. You have a high IQ, and you're also very agreeable, and you're high in conscientiousness. And what happens there is you put in a lot of work, you are able to take complex tasks, but then you are agreeable, so you don't ask for the raise, you withhold, taking more and more responsibilities and higher positions so that you rise to the top. And that's why it's better to have that also trait disagreeableness as well with conscientiousness and high IQ, so that you can rise there to the top and actually take what's given to you, what should be given to you.
I think it comes intrinsically though, because when you have like a high IQ, or like I don't know about IQ, but like when you can think faster than other people and like better, you just have this ego. Like it's that easy. Everyone has egos. Like once you see that you're better than the average person, you start having an ego. You start like getting inflated, and that makes you kind of disagreeable. Like because you're willing to support your ideas with facts because you can.
It's the arrogance of the intellect,
Exactly.
And that's what I got from the last book I read, which is Flowers for Algernon by Daniel Keyes. It's an amazing science fiction book about a retarded kid with an IQ of 70 that gets a brain operation and then becomes really intelligent. Like his IQ grows and grows. And you can see how the more intelligent he becomes, the more egocentric he is. And that's exactly coming back to what you said. Like the higher your intellect and your ability, I guess, you feel that you're smarter than other people, the more you are like, I am above them in some way, which can be a trap towards really bad stuff.
That's what Hitler did probably, like Ubermenschen and like that whole thing, like master morality, slave morality. That doesn't really matter. Like we're getting to fucking like extreme here. Anyway, let's move on. Openness.
Openness. What are you
97.
on openness?
I think it's a bit inflated though.
For me, Yeah, openness is the one that's more related to art. So intellect is ideas and openness is creativity. I'm in the 75th percentile, which I was like, oh, that's pretty good because I consider myself not a very artistic person. Just very recently, I started exploring art, like music, um, uh, art itself, and other domains like reading, writing, other domains of creativity. And so coming in the 75th percentile, that gives me hope that I can also strive in that environment.
Yeah, no, you can definitely do it. I think of like art. Well, I think we have a podcast scheduled about it, so we're gonna be talking about art a lot more.
Mm. Stay tuned.
But the thing is, I think you mentioned the emotional withdrawal that you experience a lot, like very often,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that that is quite linked up with art. I think to be able to create art, because I think you do have the openness and like already the things that you need to create very good art. However, you need that emotional being able to like express your emotion, because art is basically expressing your emotions. However, you need to like materialize them in some way, and it's quite
Yeah.
hard if you keep them to yourself and suppress them. It's quite hard to actually express them afterwards. So I think that's a really big thing about emotions and art. It's a very big correlation, because when I have felt most emotional, that's when I have felt the most need to create art and stuff like that, to express myself through that. So I think that's kind of being a robot, as you said, kind of like limits your capabilities of developing
Yeah.
these.
I've been trying to be more and more
Yeah,
open in that sense. Yeah, just to communicate with people closer to me, like my friends, my family, and so on, and to open up emotionally. That's been a big part of my development recently, let's say in the last year. Because before that, I would say that, yeah, I was strongly individual and very withdrawn from the world emotionally.
yeah, yeah. I think it's like a personal journey for you, but definitely you're going to be able to create very beautiful art once you like start being more comfortable with your emotions and stuff like that. It's a journey. I used to be like
Mm-hmm.
you the same way, but yeah, everything changed with one thing, but it's for a different time. Anyway, I think my openness to experience, and specifically openness itself, is a bit inflated, just a little bit, because one of the things that it says on the website is people with exceptionally high openness to experience live for cultural events such as movies, concerts, dance recitals, plays, poetry readings, gallery openings, and art shows. And I really can't remember the last time I went to one of these except movies and concerts.
And movies are too
Yeah,
commercial. They're
and
not
concerts as well.
extravagant
It's
like an
like,
art
yeah, it's
exhibition.
like I'm not that big of a like art fan, you know, but like other stuff. I think I really love art when it comes to my own art. I don't care about other people's art. I think it's because I'm quite disagreeable. I don't give a fuck about others. Like, I'm just egocentric. Anyway, uh, I like to play. Anyway, we're gonna cut this probably not. I like to create my own music. I like to create my own drawings. I like to create my own dances and stuff like that. Whenever I get into that spirit of like art, I really get into it, and it's like one of the best things ever. It's like I can really get into a state of flow when I'm creating art. And another thing, I really like sports, and I think sports intrinsically are a form of art, because you're constantly like play is basically creating art, because when you're drawing, yes, you're creating a painting, but first you're playing. The process of creating the painting is playing. You're just playing on a canvas.
Hmm. You kind of try to relax as much as you can and feel that emotion
No,
rather than
sometimes
think
you
logically,
don't
right?
relax. Sometimes you gotta be like really tensed up, really focused. It's precisely as in sport. Sometimes you have to be very relaxed and very calm. Other times you have to be very tense up, very focused. And that's why I think my whole life I've played sports so much, because it's quite like creating art with other people. It's like dance. You know, dance is quite on the border of sport and art.
Art.
So
Yeah.
I think sports should really be just very competitive arts, because sport is about the journey and art is about the final piece. And I've never liked this consumerist thinking of like, once I get to the point I will be happy and stuff like that. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's about the journey, and that's why I've always liked sports, because you're creating art as you're playing, and you're also being very competitive and stuff like that. And I think that's, I'm willing to agree that I'm very high in openness because of that.
I see. And you also wanted to mention the other personality test, which I forgot. We did it
Oh
back
yeah.
when we were in London together. But what was it about? And yeah, what is it in general?
Oh, the 16 personality test. I think everyone knows what it is. It's like the INFJ, INFP, and whatever that thing is. People sometimes put it in their Instagram bios and stuff like that.
What?
No, for real, for real. Yeah,
Really?
for real. Anyway, it's like
That's gonna be on my bio in next week.
0% agreeable. Anyway, it's like 4 archetypes. Well, not 4 archetypes, 4 like groups, and like 16 archetypes. So it's like 16 personalities basically. And me and you are apparently diplomats in the group of the diplomats. And I'm a mediator, while you're an advocate. So like advocate, it says quiet and mystical, yet very inspiring and tireless idealists. This is you. And I am mediator, poetic, kind, and altruistic people, always eager to help a good cause.
It sounds to me like this test is designed to scratch your ego and just to lift you up, kind of like astrology, what they do with
Literally, like there's no
the
bad
signs,
personality.
yeah.
It's just like all of them just use very beautiful adjectives.
Yeah. It's like you are poetic
Yes.
and
Strategic,
and
innovative,
inspirational.
imaginative, curious thinkers. But yeah, I mean,
Yada yada.
I don't know. All these social sciences are like, not my cup of tea, because like they're too susceptible to the human condition, which is simply emotional, and you can't really create a very good model.
I love the effort behind them.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much progress. I'm positive that we are gonna make progress. It's just that it's so slow. Humans are really complex. And it's so hard to make a model of like that generalizes to a whole population, because it's all of us humans with our slight differences, and this, don't let that encapsulate you. I think this can be a good ending. Just don't let these personality tests and all of these social sciences encapsulate you in some way, to stop you and tell you who you are, what direction you're going in. Try and take as much useful information from them. But don't be behind bars and take them absolutely at their word.
Yeah, don't let them limit you.
I think this is a really good message.
Yeah.
Let's end it at
cut
that.
this. Yeah.
See you next time.
Peace.
Boom.